Ever had that moment, where you really need your phone and it just dies?
Yeah.
Like the worst possible time.
Oh, yeah.
Now, imagine that. But it's not just you. It's millions of people.
Uh-oh.
That's exactly what happened on September 30th with this massive Verizon outage.
Wow.
We're talking 1 million reports, major cities impacted, New York, D.C., you name it. A whole lot of digital frustration.
Yeah.
And that's what we're diving deep into today.
Yeah.
Because it's about way more than just, missing a call or having slow internet. This outage kind of showed just how fragile things are, how much we rely on, well, in this case, one network.
Yeah.
So let's rewind. All right. Back to September 30th, around 10:00 a.m. Eastern Time.
Okay.
What seemed like a normal morning. Yeah, it took a turn pretty quickly.
Yeah, you're right. These things rarely just happen out of nowhere. Like, if you look at the data from Down Detector, it wasn't a sudden blackout or anything.
Right.
More like this steady, kind of gradual increase in these outage reports. And then, boom, by 11:13 a.m., it just exploded. Over 100,000 reports, people freaking out.
Yeah, and the articles, they really capture the panic. People going online, venting, desperately searching for any kind of information.
Understandably.
I saw one tweet, someone said, stuck at a coffee shop, no Wi-Fi. Guess I'm living in the moment, whether I like it or not. Hashtag Verizon outage.
Oof, yeah.
And another one, great, now I actually have to talk to people at the airport. Thanks, Verizon. Hashtag Verizon down.
Oh, man.
It's kind of funny until you realize just how much we depend on our phones these days, right?
Oh, absolutely. And this wasn't just, about posting that picture of your latte art. Think about it. Missed work calls, people stranded, couldn't use ride-sharing apps.
Right.
Even 911 services in some areas were affected.
It's scary.
Yeah, it is. It really shows just how vulnerable we are when everything's tied to, well, a single network.
And as if the outage itself wasn't bad enough, it got even weirder. Even Wi-Fi calling, which you think would be like the obvious backup, it wasn't working for everyone. What's up with that?
Right. Well, here's the thing. Wi-Fi calling, it might seem separate, but it often still needs to talk to certain parts of Verizon's network.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like those authentication servers. Your phone needs those to make the Wi-Fi call. So even if your Wi-Fi is fine, if those servers are down, well, that cascading failures,
Like a domino effect.
Exactly. So yeah, even if you think you have a backup, you might not be in the clear.
Speaking of backups, remember how the articles mentioned that AT&T was seeing more outage reports too?
Oh yeah, what was that about?
So get this, it wasn't actually AT&T having problems.
No.
It was people trying to call their Verizon contacts so desperately that they basically overloaded AT&T's network.
You're kidding.
I know, right? I bet some of us have even done that. You blame the wrong network when something's wrong.
Totally.
But it just shows how much we take these systems for granted, We don't even really understand how they work half the time.
It's true.
And then, as if things were confusing enough, the afternoon goes by and double red radio silence from Verizon.
Right.
Like we expect things to just work, and then when they don't, it's like, whoa, what do I do now?
Exactly. And the silence from Verizon, it didn't help.
Not at all.
It was like 6:30 p.m., nearly 9 hours later, that they finally said something.
Oh, yeah, I remember. It's something about engineers are working diligently, blah, blah, blah. The usual.
It's like, yeah, okay, but what does that even mean? Give us some real information.
Like, is it a cable? A server? Aliens? What?
Exactly. And even when they finally said something, they still didn't say what caused it.
It is kind of creepy when you think about it. Like, if a storm took out some cell towers or something, at least we know why. But this was just poof.
Right.
So why did it take them so long to figure out what was wrong?
Well, these networks, they're super complicated. It's not like you can just, wiggle a wire and it's fit. You know what I mean?
True.
It's a ton of data, tons of traffic patterns. You got to test everything, isolate different parts. It's a mess.
It's like finding a needle in a haystack.
Right.
Except the haystack is like the whole internet.
Pretty much. And don't forget, this wasn't just an inconvenience. This was serious stuff.
Oh, right.
Businesses couldn't do anything. People who work remotely, emergency services, every minute mattered.
It's like our whole world kind of stopped, but just for some of us.
Yeah. And it shows you just how much we depend on this stuff, Constant communication, always connected. We forget what it's like when it just stops.
Thankfully, it did start coming back online later that night, right?
Slowly, yeah. But it wasn't until October 1st that Verizon said everything was back to normal.
Still no explanation, though.
Nope. The articles just said they were investigating, which is kind of unsettling, don't you think? Like, it happened, millions were affected, and we still don't really know why.
Okay, now that is a little creepy. It's like a digital ghost messed everything up, and we're just supposed to go about our day.
Well, that's the thing, right? It wasn't just a Verizon problem. It was like a wake-up call. We're so plugged into this system, this hyper-connected world, but we don't really have a plan B when it fails.
So what do we do? Like, how do we prepare for something like this? It's not like we can just, stockpile internet or something.
Right. It's not that easy, but it's not impossible either.
Okay, so what can we do?
Well, remember those VoIP services the articles talked about?
Right.
Google Voice, Text Now, things like that. Some people were really relying on those.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Being able to call and text even when your main network is down, that's huge.
Exactly. It's like having a spare tire. You don't need it every day, but when you do.
Lifesaver. But it's not just about being able to, call your mom, right?
Right. Think about everything else. Work, banking, even just logging into things with two-factor authentication.
Whoa! I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it all goes back to the same system. So an outage like this, it's a big deal for a lot of reasons.
So what you're saying is this wasn't just a tech glitch. It was a warning.
Exactly. This is how connected we are now, and we got to be ready for when it doesn't work.
Okay, so what's one thing we can all do right now to be more prepared?
Honestly, just think about it. What if your phone died right now and you couldn't get to anything? Your email, your bank? Do you have backups?
Written down somewhere, you mean?
Exactly. Or a different way to communicate, like those VoIP things we talked about. Just, have a plan B.
Plan B.
Love it. Right. Because the more complex these systems get, the less we're really in control. A little preparation goes a long way.
Totally. Well, this has been pretty eye-opening. Thanks for taking us on this deep dive into the Verizon outage.
Of course. Always happy to do it.
For everyone listening, remember, be prepared, stay informed, and hey, maybe even have an actual conversation with someone in person every now and then, You never know when you might need those old school skills.